Yes, you are listening to the most powerful Catholic radio, Virgin Most Powerful Catholic Radio. And I am your host, Dr. Ed. I am the barista. We've got a lot of history and theology on tap for you. This weekend, we commemorated the 4th of July. Probably where you live, probably there was a lot of fireworks going on. Very loud. I wonder how many people that were lighting fireworks could recite any part of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. From the opening of the Declaration of Independence. There's a lot of talk nowadays about equality. But there is no equality if there is no God. And if you drive God from the public square, you will not have equality. Equality is based on the fact that every man and woman is created in the image and likeness of God. I said this on Dr. Marshall's show. If there is no God, if we're just some freak accident, some species that just happen to evolve by chance, or as they say, natural selection, well, then there's no such thing as human rights. If evolution is correct, if science is all there is, if the only truth that exists is what can be empirically or scientifically verified in an experiment or in a laboratory, then not only is there no God, not only is God the equivalent of the tooth fairy, but also there's no such thing as human rights. It's all sentimentality. It's all subjective, you see. So either God is at the center of everything, or we have complete anarchy. A lot of Catholics don't know this, but the Catholic Church teaches God may not be removed from the public square. We've all heard about separation of church and state. On a future episode, I will read to you from the writings of the popes, where they consider that idea to be an error. The fact of the matter is, maybe it's best if I put it to you this way. This year is 100 years since the First Vatican Council. Shall we enter into the spirit of Vatican I for a few minutes? The First Vatican Council solemnly declared that Catholics must, under penalty of heresy, Catholics must believe that God can be known just using reason alone. You don't have to join a church. You don't have to join a synagogue or a mosque. A human being can know that there's a God, an almighty creator, just by using reason. Reason and free will separate us from the animals. It's very important that we remember our dignity. Our dignity is that we are made in the image and likeness of God. God has a reason. God has a free will, and He has made us in a similar way. And therefore, how's the best way of putting this? Because God is a fact and not simply a leap of faith, no society, whether it be a monarchy, whether it be an aristocracy, or whether it be a democracy, no society can fail to acknowledge God and get away with it. It's a duty incumbent upon every human being. You know, there's a lot of calls today for social justice. Justice is one of the 4 cardinal virtues of the ancient world. The Greeks and the Romans speak about justice, prudence, fortitude, etc. Justice is giving to each person what is his or her due. And the first entity that we must give what's coming to him is Almighty God. Now, what does this have to do with Junipero Serra? Well, many of the protesters who want to tear down his statues and do vile things against him are animated to do this because they say that he marginalized the religious practices of the indigenous people. But the fact of the matter is that Almighty God has, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt not have strange gods before me. No one actually has a right, strictly speaking, to worship in a false way. It's a sin. St. Paul talks about this in the 1st chapter of Romans. That's where the First Vatican Council was drawing upon when the First Vatican Council said that God can be known through the light of reason alone, without the Bible, without the church. And Paul says that because men refused to acknowledge God, they gave themselves over to worshiping idols, false religious practices. But nobody has a right to that. Now, of course, this gets a little complicated. It's not my purpose today to get into the details of this. My purpose today is to tell you is that no society, whether it's a constitutional democracy or whether it's a tribal confederation, has the authority to prevent the return of the king. To quote Tolkien, authority is not given you to resist the king. Jesus Christ is king over individuals, and Jesus Christ is king over societies. And that's why the Roman Empire persecuted Christians. That's why the communists have persecuted Christians. We have to expect persecution. Jesus is the cure for what ails sick societies. Like a possessed person resists the priest that is going to take the devil out of them. The demons don't want to go, and therefore they fight with the priest. As Catholics, we have the right by God